Good morning. Happy Tuesday. Fit Body Secrets Day. Favorite day of the week. Love my podcast day. Getting my Instagram opened up here. Make sure everybody's live. I see somebody watching on either Facebook or YouTube. If you can hear me okay, just give me a thumbs up. Make sure that I'm actually being able to be heard. Sometimes my microphone likes to play tricks on me. I don't see anything that would tell me it's not working, but let me make sure. Let me see if I can test it this way. Yep, I am live. I figured out how to test it myself. Now I can stop asking you guys to tell me if my sound is actually working. I just realized if I just unmute myself quickly on Instagram, I will be able to tell if I'm actually live because I love doing my podcast live. I think it's a fun way for me to get some engagement from you guys on the gram, which honestly is my platform of choice. I am an Instagram. I am a doom scroller. I love my Instagram. Probably my favorite thing to do in the afternoons, but YouTube is a close second. I am really excited to talk about today's topic, but I'm always excited to talk about anything related to training, nutrition, life, and honestly, just breaking through the barriers that are keeping people stuck. Today, I want to really talk about body composition after 40. I just turned 40 myself, so I know that there are some concerns on my end of like, I hear all of these obviously horror stories of people just like losing control of everything and watching their body change and all this stuff. And I do I do fully believe that I am in control of my body composition. However, I also do believe that it doesn't mean that it's not going to be harder in my 40s than it was in my 30s or in my 20s. I think there's a lot of things that happen. And I know that from obviously a scientific perspective. And I want to validate that for you guys and give you guys a little bit of an understanding of what's going on and validate that fact that it is harder. And then hopefully give you guys some actionable steps today, because whether you have already noticed the changes and you feel like you've lost everything that you worked so hard over the last 40 years to achieve, and now you're like, where do I go? Or you're noticing the changes happening and you want to be able to take control again. Or maybe you're not even 40 years old yet. Maybe you're in your late 30s and you're like, I don't want this to be me. I want you guys to understand what is going on and hopefully give you some direction to help you. So if anything that I'm talking about today hits home for you guys, Gigi, I don't even know your real name. I'm just going to call you Gigi Fit. I know that we are talking a little bit. I know that specifically this has kind of happened to you. So I see you watching on Instagram. Well, hopefully you'll get some value out of this, because I think that it's really easy to go down two rabbit holes. One is like the victim mindset. This is me. This is what's happening. I just have to accept my body. And you do. We all need to accept our bodies. Wherever we're at in life, we need to accept it and honestly want to take care of it. Like that's really what it is. Like this is what we have to work with. This is what God gave us. This is where we're at in life. We need to make sure that we do accept it, but it's not accepting it and just not doing anything to fix it. It's also taking some ownership and some responsibility, but a lot of people don't know what that looks like. And a lot of people think, especially women, that more restriction is the answer and being harder on themselves is the answer. And that's not the case. A lot of times you need a bit of empathy, you need the basics, and you need to know what actually works. There are some things that do matter more, right? But I'm going to talk about it today, but it's not this end all be all. You're not stuck in this. You can be stuck in the victim mindset and watch your body change and be unhappy about it. And then you go into your 50s and 60s and you're trying to get it all back again, or you just stay the rest of your life being unhappy with your body, or you could take control. And I'm here to help you guys. I want to help you guys if you want to take control of your body. If you want to have control and you want to understand what's going on, that's what I'm here to talk to you guys about today. So let's roll into it. And if you guys get any questions that pop up, please feel free to pop them in the chat, whether you're watching on Instagram or Facebook. I do have my notes pulled up. However, I will check back there and kind of see as I go through each section to try and make sure I stay ahead of things. Because sometimes you guys will ask a question and I'll have already moved on to the next thing. So I'll try and be a little bit more aware of that as well. Okay, so let's just talk about that magical number 40, right? All of a sudden we hit 40 and something just doesn't feel the same. I noticed this myself. I turned 40 in May And I felt like for the month of like May and June, like I just had this weird shift in my life and like, what am I doing? Like, do I have purpose? And like, in my training, I felt a little bit off. Like my nutrition, like what am I working for? I definitely have over the last couple of years dealt with some changes in my hormones earlier than I would have expected in terms of it impacting my sleep, in impacting my mood, my gut. And these are all things that women typically do experience in their 40s. And one of the biggest places that I find that women really focus on is body composition changes. Even if they haven't gained weight, a lot of women do gain weight in their 40s, but and I'm talking women, but men as well. It seems to hit women a little bit harder because of the big changes in our hormones. But there's a huge change in body composition, whether you have actually gained weight or your weight hasn't changed much, but your body looks significantly different. You notice more belly fat specifically. You're noticing that it just seems a little bit harder to look toned in your midsection. You look less muscular, or you're having a really hard time building muscle. And maybe it seems like the scale is just creeping up and nothing has really changed. Like you're working the same job, you're doing the same training, your food's pretty much the same, nothing's really changed. But all of a sudden, like it just seems like nothing is working or things are going in the wrong direction. Okay, this isn't just about you getting old. There are real changes that are happening, and it's making it very hard for you to see the changes that you're looking for, to maintain the body, because you don't understand those changes. And I want to break them down for you, not get too deep into the weeds on them, but just explain to you what's going on so that you're more educated, and then show you some things that you can do to change it. Okay, so what's actually happening as we age? And I'm going to use the number 40, but for some women, it happens a little bit younger. Some women, it doesn't happen until their late 40s. You know, men, obviously, your hormone changes are going to be a little bit different. You don't have a menstrual cycle, so yours is more about changes in testosterone levels and estrogen levels as well, but just to a lesser degree. But for women right now specifically, that's probably one of the main things that I want to talk about is the big shifts in progesterone and estrogen. These are the biggest things that are going to impact things like your sleep. They're going to impact where your body stores body fat. So women tend to store more body fat in their midsection as their estrogen levels drop. Okay, so that's a common thing. Other things that happen, your insulin sensitivity does start to decrease a little bit. So it becomes a little bit harder for you to regulate blood sugar. You also might notice a change in cravings. Maybe your workouts don't feel like you have as much energy for them, even though you're eating the same stuff. Even if you are getting the same amount of sleep, it just seems like you're not utilizing the energy like you used to. And then the other big one is cortisol changes. Cortisol will increase, and then obviously that will have a big impact on things. This also normally also coincides with lifestyle factors. Okay, so when we talk about aging and getting into our 40s, there are also often a lot of lifestyle changes that happen. Maybe your kids are growing up, so you're not chasing little toddlers around anymore. They're a little bit more self-sufficient, so you're not doing as much of the homemaking stuff. Maybe, and I see this a lot, is women and men, they start to dive in more to work, right? Like in your 20s, it's more like, oh, like let's just, have the fun life. And now you're like, man, like I'm working hard. There's like a lot more financial burden, a lot more responsibility there, a lot more worry. Maybe your kids are getting older. They're keeping you up late at night and you're worrying about them. Okay. But there's a lot of other things that happen. Also, people don't think about the impact that diet history has on how your body is going to experience changes in your 40s. If you've been a chronic yo-yo dieter, constantly losing and gaining the same weight, constantly restricting yourself, doing a lot of high intensity training and not balancing it with adequate rest, having a poor relationship with food, not really actually understanding what it looks like to fuel yourself, all of these things are going to impact your metabolism as you age. Okay. I will say this. I shouldn't say the word metabolism, because just so you know, your metabolic rate does not change at 40. In fact, a little side tangent, metabolic rate is increasing until the time you're about 20 to 22. And then between the ages of like 20 and 60, your metabolic rate from a physiological standpoint that's not impacted by changes in body composition from muscle or fat stays the same. So you don't have any changes in actually your like basic metabolic needs, aside from if you have shifts in metabolism from muscle gain or fat loss. Okay. So your metabolism, or it's your totally the energy expenditure might change a little bit based on changes in your lifestyle. Maybe in your 20s and 30s, you do have a little bit more spontaneous activity. As you get into your 40s, maybe not so much. This can also be triggered from the changes in your hormones. Your hormones are going to make you have, the shifts will make you have a little bit less energy. You're not going to be doing as much of the zipping around and stuff like that. Some women, opposite. They're still their high anxiety keeps them always on the go. They're always moving. But it's important to understand that these lifestyle factors does impact your energy needs, right? So how many calories your body needs. Other changes that impact or happen in over your 40 is that because of the natural decrease in progesterone and estrogen, your ability to handle the same kind of volume might go down. There is a natural decline in muscle mass beyond the ages of 40. That's when statistics have shown that sarcopenia does set in. So it's really important to be ensuring that you are doing a progressive-based strength program to make sure that we are always working to build and maintain lean muscle mass. Why diet is also important and recovery is so important. But recovery also does slow, and it becomes hard because women going through a lot of these hormonal changes have a really hard time pushing themselves. This is where training modalities might need to change a little bit. I love CrossFit, but when a woman is having a really rough morning, she didn't sleep, and she looks at the workout and it's a gasser. It's like a 5-minute sprint workout. And the last thing she wants to do is go wreck her central nervous system at 5 o'clock in the morning with burpees and thrusters before going to work, right? So it's knowing that in order for you to stay consistent with doing programming that's going to keep you injury free and wanting to show up every day, you have to look at the type of training that's going to work best for you. And I was going to talk about my take on training for women and even men going through these changes in life that I fully think is the best way to train, but maybe we'll get into that a little bit later. I want to stay focused on today's topic. So those are the main things that I want you guys to understand. These are the things that are happening in your body. Okay. So we're having changes in hormones. It's impacting your energy needs. It's impacting your appetite. It's impacting your spontaneous movement. So your non-exercise activity goes down. It's impacting your ability to build lean muscle mass. It's impacting your recovery from your training. It's impacting everything, right? But it's not directly causing changes in body composition from a weight or fat gain perspective, or a muscle gain or a muscle loss or muscle gain perspective, if we understand a couple of things. And I want to go over a few myths right now. But before I get into that, like I said, I just want to pop over to the chat to make sure that I don't have any questions so far. Good morning, Holly. And if you guys do have any questions about anything that I'm going over so far, please feel free to chime in. I wanted to make sure I just checked in on that before I moved into the next section. And if you're listening to the recording on Apple Podcasts, that's okay too. You get to hear all of my little breaks and stuff, because I don't like to do the whole editing thing. That's just not me. I did not ever want to become a content creator, although I love it. I like coaching. All right, let's talk about some myths. And I kind of already touched on this previously, but the one myth that I want to talk about is your metabolism just tanks after 40. There's nothing you can do about it, right? A lot of people are like, oh, my metabolism is just so slow. Well, your energy needs may have went down, but your metabolism, like I mentioned, did not go down. And the biggest driver of metabolic changes from an energy expenditure perspective is going to be changes in your training and changes in your muscle mass. And the best thing that you can do to keep yourself burning more energy and keeping your energy needs up is to keep lifting and keep eating your protein. Eat your protein and keep building the weights or lifting the weights. Those are the two things that you really need to be doing to keep a strong metabolism. And it's funny because I was talking to a client. Well, she was in my Jumpstart, and she was explaining to me that it's just so hard for her to do strength training because she's got injuries. But when I looked at the training that she tries to do, she does a lot of the high intensity, the random 20-minute AMRAPs, where it's 20 kettlebell swings, 20 bicep curls, 20 burpees, 20 box step ups, 20 deadlifts. It's that random stuff, trying to do that for time. Yeah, it's going to give you a dopamine hit, but it's also likely leading you to possibly getting injured, right? That's not progressive strength training. And I understand that That might be boring to switch over to doing like, actually, I'm going to do like slow tempo deadlifts, and I'm going to do slow tempo bicep curls, and I'm going to get my high intensity training in from some bike intervals, but that might be the best thing for you. Again, I'm going to talk a little bit about my thoughts on the best type of training for women over 40 and men over 40. But for right now, just know that your metabolism does not just magically slow down at 40. That's not how it happens. After 60, you do start to see a little bit of a metabolic change. Okay. Number 2 is that hormones make it impossible to lose belly fat. Like, it's my hormones that are why I'm gaining weight. That is not the case. Okay. Your hormones are truly not the problem. They are simply the messenger. Your hormones are simply chemical messengers. They are little messengers telling your brain what to do with the food that's coming in, and telling you what to do with things. Like, that's really what your hormones do. So your hormones give you signals like, hey, you're tired. You should slow down a little bit. So you get tired and you take a nap, or you slow down. Okay. Your hormones are like, I really need some food. And they trigger cravings. So you want to eat something. Like, that's what your hormones do. Okay. So now, as I mentioned, the changes in hormones, specifically estrogen and progesterone, can change where your body is storing fat. Like, there is some truth to that. And cortisol as well. The fat receptor, the fat cells in your abdomen, because we have fat cells everywhere, have 4 times the cortisol receptors of anywhere else in your body. So as we're going through this process of aging and hormonal changes, it is a lot easier to put belly fat on if we're not controlling calories. If we're not controlling calories, and we're going to talk more about that. Okay. So what's really important for you guys, again, is making sure that your nutrition, your strength, and your lifestyle is all dialed in. Now, I'm not saying that it's not harder, because you likely have, I don't know why I hate this terminology now, but it's like, it's already viral, so I might as well just keep using it. The food noise. Okay. The food noise in your 40s is way louder. The food noise and the lack of motivation to do hard things is down, right? You no longer really care about like how fast you're moving in a workout. You just want to be able to get through the workout. So those changes are going to make it a little bit more difficult, but it's not impossible. You just have to be open to the challenge. Like, I can say, woe is me. I'm just going to accept that this is going to be the changes. Or I can say, well, this sucks. I'm going to like really try and make sure that I am on top of things. I work hard on everything else in my life. I am going to work hard on me. There's a victim mindset. And then there's a person that's like, you know what? I'm willing to do something about it. It might not be your fault it's happening, but it is absolutely your responsibility to fix it. And if you have to take responsibility to fix it, guess what? You also get to take responsibility for your success. Plain and simple. No magical diet, no magical pill, no magical coach is doing anything for you. This is your hard work. Everything else is just making it a little bit easier for you or laying out the plan. Okay. So that's the other thing. Next thing is cardio, like cardio. Like, this whole, it's either too much cardio, like all you do is cardio, or it's not enough cardio. Like, there's a big gap in what actually cardio is being used for. All right. You do need to be doing, in my opinion, over 40, a little bit more movement intentionally, call it cardio, because of the less spontaneous movement. So you might think so you might need to do a little bit more cardio, but not the type of cardio that you think, right? So like, if you're getting in 3 to 4-ish cardio sessions a week, that's plenty. And when I say cardio sessions, I'm not counting just walking. Walking is the cardio I'm going to talk about. But if you're like hitting CrossFit, that's cardio. Okay. If you're getting a couple of those workouts in different time domains, you're doing good. On top of that, walking is a great form of low intensity cardio that can be very, very, very beneficial for women in their 40s and men who are noticing that maybe spontaneous activity does go down. It's why I do put an emphasis on steps, not just even in the population over 40, but in the younger population too, because let's just be honest, common day world, I personally think that the reason why America is so fat has less to do with the food and more to do with how lazy America has gotten. We are all entirely too busy with life and too lazy with our food. Like, People Instacart their groceries. They get DoorDash. Nobody wants to cook for themselves anymore. Nobody has time. They'd rather sit behind a desk or behind a car. Kids are just sitting behind their phone. Like, there's no movement in the day. I think that that's probably why it's so easy to pack on the calories, or pack on the fat, and also all those foods are way higher in calories, right? Like, just grabbing takeout all the time rather than cooking is an extra 200 to 300 calories per meal easily. So, anyways, I'm getting off on a little bit of a tangent, but the cardio aspect of things, looking at your non-exercise activity as a huge player in it's a tool. That is truly a tool for you to learn how to control your body composition over 40. This is another big myth I wrote down. I have two more myths, myth 4, myth 5, is you got to work harder on your diet. Like, I think we need to actually define what working harder on your diet is, because for a lot of women, extreme dieting typically backfires even faster. Like, you might have been able to get away with these short little cuts and these extreme calorie deficits and these little challenges and jump starts that, like, you slash calories, and it might have worked in your 20s, maybe even in your 30s, but it just isn't working as well in your 40s, and your ability to handle those things, you just don't have the capacity anymore. It normally backfires. So it's not really about dieting harder. It's about making smarter nutrition decisions. And I will talk more about this as well. Okay. But I find that some of the common, what's the word I'm looking for, pitfalls for women in their 40s is when they're struggling to get their diet locked in, they're focusing so much on carbs. Carbs are the problem. Oftentimes I find out that women in their 40s are drinking their carbs too much. And I just shouldn't even call them carbs. They're just drinking too much alcohol. Alcohol has become a scapegoat for, like, life. It's like, I'm just going to drink some alcohol. And they're not eating that much. They're drinking. And that's just causing more metabolic dysfunction. So, but it's not really about dieting harder. It's about dieting smarter. It's really about knowing how much you should be eating and making sure we can make specific changes on creating a sustainable calorie deficit, or understanding how your calorie needs might have changed as you have aged and activity has slowed down a little bit. Metabolism might have slowed down a little bit. Also making sure that you're getting the right types of nutrients to support that lean muscle tissue. Okay. And then my last myth is a very important one. I see this a lot and I hate it. I hate it for women. You should stop doing high intensity exercise. Why are we telling women that they should not be working hard in the gym? So think about it this way. So when you're stressed in a workout, right, there's a metabolic stress, but there's also a mental stress. Okay. In life, you experience a lot of that same mental stress all of the time. You don't have the metabolic stress, you have the mental stress. And a lot of times, the metabolic stress is what your body needs from a physiological standpoint, but the amount of mental pressure you're putting on yourself in the gym and in life and with your kids and with not getting enough sleep, it all adds up. Okay. So it's knowing how to manage stress better, and the high intensity training done in the right doses can actually help with that. And as I mentioned, the high intensity training can help a little bit with insulin sensitivity if we're doing the right times or the right types of training. I think the biggest thing is understanding how to know what RPE, rate of perceived exertion, looks like, and knowing when it's time to push and when it's time to throttle back. I think the other thing to point out here is understanding how estrogen levels dropping does impact tendon and ligament integrity. And if you are constantly doing movements that are putting your tendons and ligaments under a lot of stress, and you are under fueling and you are not recovering, you are going to be more prone to injury. I don't think that if you have a little shoulder niggle, like, right, like, oh, my shoulder feels a little bit awkward, and you see that snatches are on the board today, and you're like, oh, I think I could push through. I don't think that that's smart. I'm sorry. I don't think that going lighter is the answer. That's my giving you my personal opinion. I think changing out the movement is the answer. I also think that, and I'm going to actually end this podcast talking a little bit about my thoughts on exercise, but let's just talk about, those are the 5 myths I think I hear a lot of. Is one, obviously, that, metabolism tanks, wrong. It's not impossible to lose belly fat. You do need to be doing cardio, but you don't have to be doing a whole bunch of cardio. Dieting does not need to be harder as you age. It just needs to be smarter. And then you should still be doing high intensity exercise. So I want to kind of make sure I pointed those things out. I'm going to hop back over here. Does anybody have any questions so far? No. I see a thumbs up though. Awesome. All right. Let's give you guys some takeaways because I want you guys to know what to do with all of this stuff, right? I'm giving you guys a lot of stuff, but now I want you guys to have some practical application here. What should you be doing differently in your diet, in your training to regain control over your body over 40? That's the goal, right? So let's talk about it. All right. So number one, okay, I'm going to get some hate for this. I don't really care. If you are struggling with changes in your body composition, you are struggling with changes in your energy levels, you are frustrated with feeling like you're out of control, track your food. Track your food. Like, it's not a time-consuming thing. This does not have to be a macro Tetris implementation project. This literally just needs to be you getting an idea of how much you are consuming on a daily basis, how frequently you are eating, where you eat more of your calories, how your body is responding to those calories, how your energy levels are, how your weight's fluctuating, how your performance is in the gym. Track your food. If you are at a place of frustration right now and you are not tracking your food, that's number one for you. Just start tracking your food. That gives you control to start. Now, I'm not saying it's going to miraculously change anything because tracking just gives you the power to change. It's the tool you need to be able to know where you have to make adjustments. If you're looking at your calories and you're like, I've only been eating 1,200 calories, and you're wondering why you're going overboard on the weekends or why your energy is low or why you have cravings, maybe that's the solution, right? So it's looking at what's going on. It's also looking at what you're eating, not just the amounts of the food, but what you're actually consuming. How much fiber are you getting? How much micronutrient-rich foods are you getting? Like, there's all those things that matter. So you need to be tracking your food, hands down. Not just 4 or 5 days a week when you've meal prepped. I'm talking about the nitty-gritty too. I'm talking about the Saturday burger and fries or the acai bowls or the whatever, the football game snacks. I'm talking about it all. Okay, the alcohol. How much are you drinking? Okay, like, get an idea of what you're consuming. This is you saying, I am willing to take responsibility for my body. I'm not going to let my body become just a side effect of my life. I want to actually control it. Okay, so track your food and do it consistently. That's number one. I track my food, guys. I've been tracking my food for, say over 10 years. Do I always do it perfectly? No. Do I dial it in periodically because I have specific goals? Yes. But it's not something that I have to think about. It's just a natural part of my life. Just like other data you track at work, right? You go into work and you might track data. I don't know what you do for work, right? Whatever you do, there's probably some kind of things you have to keep track of throughout the day. Whether it's your hours being worked, whether it's your teacher, you're keeping track of your students' homework, whatever. We all have things we have to track in life, okay? You can choose to track the thing that matters most to your body composition, or you can choose to avoid it. And if you're struggling because you feel overwhelmed by that, we got to figure out the barrier there. And a lot of times it's just trying to be too damn perfect, okay? But you should be tracking your food because that's going to give you power. And I'll talk about some things that we can change there. Number two is you need to be strength training. It's a non-negotiable, okay? So this is where if you have limitations or injuries, we have to build a plan that works around them, okay? We cannot avoid weightlifting. Full transparency, as I mentioned to you, my body took a tank in my hormones a little bit earlier than I would have liked to. I don't know what caused it, aside from I do think it was a little bit of an autoimmune response after a shoulder surgery. Short little tangent. I had shoulder surgery because I had a nagging little injury that had been lingering for about 3 or 4 years, and finally decided that I'm like, you know what? This is holding me back from competing in CrossFit because I wanted to win. I wanted to be on the podium, and I decided to go all in on the surgery, and my body did not respond to it. 15 or 13 years at that time of doing CrossFit to have one little niggling injury. Afterwards, my hormones tanked. I tore both of my hamstrings and my Achilles. But guess what? I trained through all of that. I did what I could through all of that. Had I not, I probably would be in a very different situation today. I probably would be one of the women who said, oh my God, I've just gained 20 pounds. My body composition is horrible. I don't even know where to start, and I would have been starting over from scratch. But instead, I did lose a lot of muscle mass in my legs. However, I was able to maintain my body composition, and now I'm working to rebuild my legs. That's it. So like, it's all about knowing that strength training needs to be a non-negotiable. You've got to protect your muscle. You've got to protect your body, like your bones, your tendons, your ligaments. You need to be building lean muscle tissue. You are not going to get bulky. So if you're hearing this, you're like, I don't want to be he woman. You're not going to be he woman. I promise you. You are not. It's very, very difficult. If you've ever tried to intentionally put on muscle, you know it's incredibly difficult to put on muscle. Okay. So you're not going to get bulky unless you're eating in a calorie surplus. Okay. But that muscle tissue is going to help your hormones. It's going to help keep your bones and your tendons and ligaments stronger. It's going to help improve your metabolic rate. It's going to improve your insulin sensitivity. There is no downsides to you making sure that you are getting your lifting in every single week. Okay. And this is where it sucks, because for a lot of people, they thrive in the community of CrossFit. And I love that for you. But for some people, they need to take a back seat to CrossFit and doing something a little bit different. I keep going back to this training thing. I think I have to talk about the training program that I think is best for you. I'll talk about that at the end. Okay. Now let's talk about nutrition. Okay. If you're gaining weight, it's the nutrition. Your nutrition has not been dialed in to keep you at maintenance calories. Something has shifted in your calorie needs or your calorie intake that is causing you to gain weight. Yes, the belly fat, it's because you're eating too many calories. Even if body fat distribution has changed, you would not be increasing body fat unless you put yourself in a calorie surplus. So we need to look at what's going on in your diet. How much protein are you taking in? Muscle protein synthesis does also decrease as you age. You need to make sure that you're getting enough protein in. Okay, this is going to be critical for you for muscle retention, for recovery, for immune system. Ladies that are like losing their hair, thyroid function, you need to be getting enough protein. It also is going to make you feel more satisfied. Nobody feels hungry after eating a 6-ounce chicken breast. I get this all the time. I tried eating all that chicken, but I was so full. Yeah, that's the point. Okay, so you are going to feel more full. Okay, you need to be looking at the balance of carbs and fats, and also making sure that you're getting enough calories. Calorie calculators online are failing you. Okay, everybody's needs are very, very, very different based on your types of food you're consuming, based on your metabolic rate, based on your hormones, based on a number of things that calculator cannot dictate. It is a general ideal estimation, not your needs. Okay, we need to be looking at the balance of carbs from fiber versus sugar. Okay, this is a huge one. Sugar is not bad, but if you're getting 150 grams of carbs and over 100 of them is coming from sugar, you're not getting enough prebiotic fiber. Okay, and that's going to be helpful, because if you're not getting enough of that stuff, one of the other side effects of going through your 40s is your gut starts to go haywire, right? All of a sudden you can't tolerate foods, and we need to make sure that you're getting enough of those good fibers. Okay, extreme dieting needs to come to an end. No more of this fasted protocols, no more of this carnivore bullshit, low carb, low calorie, Optavia shakes and bars. Like, we need to give you a strategy built for you. Okay. It's literally optimizing food quality, knowing your best sources of protein, carbs, and fats, having some flexibility, including some of the foods you like, knowing what your calorie needs are, and the right macronutrient balance based on your training type and your food preferences. Nutrition is that simple, whether you are over 40 or under 40, okay? Over 40, there are some specific changes to those things that have to be made. You might not be able to get away with eating as many Oreos or as many of those types of carbs. If it fits your macros thing, might not work as well in your 40s. It's why I'd also don't recommend it as much in your 30s or your 20s either, okay? But you need to have a good, solid built nutrition strategy. Stress and sleep. You cannot, unfortunately, decrease the stress in your life. I am very aware of that. Okay. I can't just like snap my fingers and tell you to stop working. I can't tell your boss to go away. I can't tell your kids to stop screaming at you, or stop adding more extracurriculars to their plates that you have more on your plate, right? I can't change all that. However, I can help you change how you react to it. Okay. Getting enough energy, prioritizing, setting some boundaries when you can, learning how to mitigate the stress response to everything, again, where intensity can sometimes help in your training, is very helpful for learning how to manage those things and help keep cortisol levels at bay. Okay, so your stress response matters and your sleep matters. Now, this is that chicken or the egg scenario, right? Because changes in progesterone and estrogen can make it harder to sleep. But also, if you're not prioritizing time in bed, you're missing a piece of the puzzle that is your priority, your responsibility. And I know that not every day is perfect, right? A lot of you guys are going to the gym at 5 a.m., you're working a full 8 to 5, and then you've got kids stuff afterwards, and you're getting into bed by 10. But whatever you can do when you can to get more time in bed and making sure the quality of your sleep is good, that's great. I also think that this is where some hormone replacement therapy can sometimes help. If you are dealing with sleep issues because of low progesterone, sometimes progesterone can help increase sleep. I have a lot of women who rave about the fact that since being on progesterone, their sleep is improved. Okay, so that's all important stuff there. And then the last piece here is understanding that this is the when, sorry, taking a sip of my Paper Street coffee. This is when you have to recognize that intense dieting, I've already said this, is no longer going to work. Intense training all the time is no longer going to work. Consistency, day to day, the more monotonous, like boring stuff is what works. It's about working smarter, not harder. So you've got to get out of the mindset of resets and cutting out sugar and I'm cutting out all this stuff and focusing on consistency. Okay. That is what matters most. You have power. You are empowered right now. I am giving you, this all sounds really, really simple, right? So she's basically telling me, lift heavy weights, okay, heavy relative to you. Make sure I'm tracking my food. Make sure I'm dialing in the amounts. Make sure I'm eating the right things. But also knowing that those things are not going to be as easy because of hormones, okay? Where flexibility comes in. Knowing that it's Monday and it's leg day and you're like, man, I probably need to lower the weights a little bit today. Maybe it's Tuesday afternoon, you're getting cravings and you're like, you know what? I normally have sweet potato and beef, but you know what? I'm really craving tacos tonight. I'm going to have tacos and I'm going to make them fit the plan. Like, it's knowing how to be flexible. I want to have dessert. Okay. Moderating alcohol is a big, big one. All right. You got to stop reaching for the alcohol. The alcohol, guys, let me just tell you, there is not enough. And this is, and I have full-hearted belief in this. There is not enough people demonizing alcohol. Okay. Everybody talks about carbs and sugar and all this shit. Why is nobody talking about alcohol? Alcohol is probably one of the worst things for anybody. There is no benefits to it. More people die from drinking alcohol and driving and liver cirrhosis and all this other shit. The impact on your hormones, all for what? To have a few hours of instant gratification, right? Like, that's truly what it is. Nobody talks enough about the negative side effects of alcohol. It is a carcinogen. It is a known carcinogen. People avoiding plastics and this and that, and then they're just sucking down their wine bottles, right? Like, I know that's a little bit of a tangent again, but it's because I fully believe, I don't have anything against a person that drinks a couple of drinks a week, but when you can't put it down, that's a problem. It's a problem. It's not any different than somebody not being able to put down the cookies if they're overweight. You got a 350-pound woman who's like, I just want to eat my cookies. It's the same thing as somebody that's like, it's Friday afternoon and I just want to have my alcohol. Exact same fucking problem. Sorry, just going to say that. Okay. So last thing that I mentioned I was going to talk about today is the best type of training. This was not part of my topic for today, but I had thought about this morning because I have a lot of women that come from the competitive CrossFit. And I say competitive CrossFit, but like, you just like to be competitive in the class. I do have some competitive masters CrossFit athletes, but a lot of my women and men are typically just like in the CrossFit gym and they're pushing it, 4 to 5 days a week. And I feel like the people that get the best benefit from CrossFit in their 40s and 50s have been very consistent with following strength bias programming for a lot of years. And that means like making sure they're intentionally doing squatting, pressing, deadlifting throughout the week, coming from a background where they did maybe some bodybuilding. But if you are just doing the high intensity stuff, just the CrossFit stuff, I don't think you are really going to be making as much of an improvement in your health, body composition, and hormones in your 40s and 50s as you could be, as if you were following, making sure that you're getting that strength programming in. However, I also do love the benefits of the high intensity stuff, like I said. So I honestly think, and I was thinking about this morning, is like, as I shift into my 40s, I'm still trying to figure out what the hell I want to do. Do I want to compete in CrossFit? Do I not want to compete in CrossFit? I still train like I want to compete in CrossFit, but since I've started to get into, like, honestly, the last couple of years of recovery, I definitely take down the intensity in a lot of my workouts and do a lot more volume to, like, so if a workout is like supposed to be a 3-minute AMRAP, I might say, all right, I probably would try and get, 10 reps of this and 10 reps of that. And so I'm going to turn this into a 30-minute EMOM. And instead of doing, like, 6 sets of 3 minutes on, 2 minutes off, I might just do an EMOM and get the volume in, get the movements in because I feel good, but take down the intensity. So that's where I had to decide, do I want to compete in CrossFit or not? So when I was thinking about what I feel like is best for people in their 40s, and I'm going to use the term because CrossFit was the term for a while, but I really do like the thought of, like, hybrid training for, like, masters, women, men. In fact, in general, I think it's a great way to train, and still doing CrossFit with that is, so if you like doing the 21-15-9s, and that can be a form of your hybrid training, but the thought of, like, doing mostly intensity from aerobic based monostructural movements, not as much of, like, the snatches and the bar muscle ups and stuff like that. If you like that stuff, doing it in more of like an EMOM setting where you can control, like, obviously making sure your technique stays good and you're focusing on it more so for the skill perspective and the central nervous system perspective, but getting the intensity stuff from things that are a little bit lower barrier of entry in terms of skill and are less likely to leave you with injuries. So, like, it's going to be very difficult for somebody to get injured on, like, the echo bike or a rower or a ski erg or a bike erg or even running. Obviously, overuse injuries can still happen, but for the most part, those are pretty safe. You're going to be pretty safe doing things like push-ups and air squats, and really looking at getting intensity from that types of stuff, and then prioritizing the other side of the hybrid training, which is lifting, which is getting you following, strength programs and progressions and squatting and pressing and deadlifting. I think that Olympic lifting and gymnastics is so fun. And I think that that's probably what makes CrossFit so fun, right? Is like the toes to bar, the handstand push-ups, the snatches, the clean and jerks. And I think that masters people can still do that. I just think that if you're not looking to compete, it should be more so like putting touches on it because you enjoy it as a skill. And for the, like I said, more of like the central nervous system, mental side of things, not so much for the, I'm trying to PR my snatch all the time, because that's where I feel like injuries go wrong. And I think that a lot of the random just throwing metcons together of a lot of, like, movements that people are moving under duress and they're not moving well is what leads to injuries. Like watching somebody do thrusters where their knees are craving in, their toes are up, their back is round, their elbows are down, they're literally just moving like shit, is like, no, I'd rather that person be doing a goblet squat, like, that's me. I don't want to see a person injure themselves. They can get the exact same high intensity benefit without that. That's also what I do in my programming for my clients. I don't program a lot of that stuff because I'd much rather them do movements that are going to facilitate a similar metabolic response without the risk of injury. So little tangent there, but I did want to talk about that because I kind of preluded to it a lot. This episode's gotten pretty long. So let me just pop over to the chat here, see if I have any other questions. No questions so far. I'm glad that I see a lot of people that are jumping on. All right, so let me just close up shop here because it is 8:45 and I got a busy day today. So I just want to validate right now, guys, if you are in your 40s and you are struggling with body composition changes, it is truly a little bit harder, but it does not make results impossible. And I do have, the majority of my clientele are over 30. I think I have very few in their 20s. The majority of them are in the ages of like 35 to 55, with a few in their 60s as well. And all of them get great results. The ones that don't get results, the clients that I have that are not getting good results, usually it's a resistance to eating more. They're like struggling with that, or poor compliance. They're just not willing to do the things that I'm telling them to do. That's just me being fully transparent. If I have somebody that's not strength training at all. And I'm like, you got to be lifting weights. And they're not willing to put in a couple of days a week of lifting weights. Nothing I can do about that. So it's things like that. If a person's not getting enough protein in, I can give them 5 million different suggestions, but if they're not willing to eat the protein, then it's not going to happen. And then I think the biggest thing here is just to reframe, right? It doesn't have to be the beginning of an end. Like being 40 doesn't have to be like this decrease in your livelihood and your body composition. In fact, I've seen women transform their bodies and look better in their 50s and their 60s than they have in their 20s and their 30s. It's just time to shift your strategy and maturing. It truly is. It's maturing in your nutrition journey. And if that's something that you're looking for, you want to kind of take ownership and you want a built out plan for you, I would love to connect with you. You can feel free to reach out to me and we can chat. So that's all I got for today. I hope you guys all have a phenomenal Tuesday. Also, last plug, I will tell you guys this. So coffee journey, let's talk about my coffee journey. And if Athena's not watching this, but just a little funny talk. Athena noticed that on the bottom of my coffee mug, I still had the sticker on. And this coffee mug is like not even a coffee mug. It's actually like a water mug, but I just like a lot of coffee. And I've had it for like 2 years and I still had the sticker on it. I actually bought it when I was on a trip and I needed a coffee mug in the hotel. And I just picked up one at Walgreens. This is what I got. Anyways, so my coffee journey, quick little talk about my coffee journey is I switched over from instant espresso to brewed coffee, tried a $17 bag of coffee and was very disappointed and wanted to go back to my instant coffee. And I purchased the brand of instant espresso in the brewed brand, the brewed type, and love it. And I also finally got my shipment of Paper Street coffee. And this is my first Paper Street coffee. And let me tell you, I'm happy I switched. I'm loving my coffee now. And it's knocked off about 10 minutes from my morning routine because my old morning routine was wake up, get my pot of water going, feed the cat, eat my snack. While the pot of water was going, I'll do my dishes. And then I put the coffee together. And now I hit the delay brew and I wake up and my coffee is ready for me. Oops. It's already ready for me. And so I'm like, my morning just started 15 minutes early. So I literally get up, my coffee's ready, and I get right into work. It's awesome. So it's definitely shaved off about 15 minutes from my morning routine. And now I just added another 15 minutes because I started a new skincare routine. So we can touch on that too. All the non-nutrition stuff that we're talking about getting over 40. That's what sparked that for me is I turned 40 and all of a sudden I was noticing like, okay, like, so full transparency, I get Botox, but I only get it in between my eyes here. I had a really, really, really strong, what do they call it? The glabella line, the 11 line. And I had it just because I never wore sunglasses. So my entire years of playing soccer, squinting in the sun, I had horrible 11 lines. So I decided to start getting the Botox here. That's really all I've ever done. I don't really want to change my face. It kind of freaks me out, but I have noticed more wrinkles and and my skin just didn't look as bright. So I was looking to start a little skincare routine. I think it was time to level up. And I am thankful for Bailey, my good friend Bailey. I went over to Ulta and I'm like, okay, let me just buy like a little set, like a trial set and try and get consistent with something and see if I get consistent with it. And if I like it, I'll buy the full thing. If I don't, maybe I'll try a different one. So I'm giving this one a shot. I think I'm going to try a different one next time. But anyways, just a little banter talk this morning. So that's all I got today, guys. If you guys have any questions about anything, what's up, Jess? Long time no see, girl. I'm talking a little skincare now, not my totally normal routine. We're talking about how my skincare just leveled up from what I was doing when I was 15 years old to what I'm doing now that I'm just turned 40, which is a big change. Like before this, literally, I was just Neutrogena face wash. I've been very fortunate. I had horrible skin as a teenager, but in my adult life, my skin has been pretty clear, thank God. But now I'm just trying to prevent the old aging stuff. Well, Jess, I would love any skincare lines that you like. I am currently trying out because I literally get overwhelmed when I look at freaking products. I went to Ulta and there was just like, I was like, it's like going to the Cheesecake Factory to eat. I was like, where do I start? Like, where do I start? There was like so many different brands, and I'm like, I don't even know what I'm looking for. There's so many different serums, and just give me something to start with, right? So I ended up just going over to the Clinique woman who was just doing her thing, and I had pulled up. I had a Dermatologica set. I told her what I was looking for. She recommended the Clinique one, so I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna give it a shot. And it's a 3-step system. It's some kind of a serum, and then an eye cream, and then an overall face cream. So I'm going to give that a shot. What I was really looking for was one with a retinol in it. But this one I think does have that in it, along with like peptides. But anyways, I think I might try my esthetician that I do get the Botox in my eyes from. She had me on, I had tried this years ago, but I didn't stick with it, and I ended up expiring, was the Skin Better Science. I was using their Alpha Ret, and I'm going to maybe try their skin line, but it's expensive. So it's just, everything is so expensive. I will keep you updated. So anyways, guys, I am off to finish getting other things done. If you guys have any questions about anything I talked about today, please feel free to shoot me a message. Always here to help. And I will talk to you guys all next time. Bye.